the moment we're living in really challenging times, and one of the things that we can use to manage our well-being during this difficult period is to use compassion, to come away from work feeling like we've done a good enough job despite all the pressures that staff are facing at the moment. So with this in mind, psychology at Cheeverstown have been working to provide specific compassion-focused techniques for staff and their well-being. So these techniques are based on an approach called compassion-focused therapy. You don't need to worry, this isn't therapy, but rather just some techniques that we know from research and science will make your job a little bit more manageable during these stressful times. So in this first message to staff at Cheeverstown about compassion, I'm going to share some ways that you can use messages from compassion to make your working day a little bit more manageable at the moment. And then I'm going to talk you through a compassionate exercise that's just a couple of minutes long to get you started on that. So just to introduce myself, if I haven't met you in person yet, my name is Yvonne and I'm a psychologist here at Cheeverstown. And just to mention Dr. Lorraine McGurk, who is a consultant in staff wellbeing in Northern Ireland, working with the Compassionate Mind Foundation, and she has lent us some tips to use for staff wellbeing as part of this presentation. So the first thing to bear in mind is not to be too hard on yourself. If you don't have your normal levels of productivity, and that can be both at work and at home, and bear in mind that this is a particularly hard time for staff at Cheeverstown because of the nature of the caring roles with service users. It means that you naturally really care about the people that you're working with in Cheeverstown, but then you also have other things that you really care about to manage, like your own health and well-being, and that of the people that you love. So you might feel like you are on a bit of an emotional roller coaster at the moment. You might be feeling lots of negative, difficult things that you'd really rather avoid, like being scared, being sad, being overwhelmed completely or burdened by everything that's going on. So just be sure to reassure yourself that that's completely normal at the moment. And also importantly, it's not something that any of us would be choosing to feel. But the chances are, if you talk to other people, you'll find that they either have or are experiencing the same emotions, and we're all in the same boat with this, and that's really important to remember. So there's a lot going on at the moment that we have no control over, but there are things that we do have control over, and these are things that could help us a little bit at the moment. So taking care of your very basic needs is really important. So those ones at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs that you might have come across in school. So remembering just to eat well, stay hydrated, and try to get some form of exercise. And it's really important to make time for the things that you enjoy, even if you feel like you're too busy at the moment, because these things are really important to slow your brain down and relax when you need to. So when you are around others at work, do your very best to model calm and respectful behaviour, because we know now from research that how we are can actually impact on other people. So for example, if we are feeling anxious, that can come across and then they can end up feeling anxious as well. So the advice is to speak calmly, And use a warm voice tone, even if you're feeling really under pressure, because showing this calmness and kindness to others can help them, and then it can also help you to feel better as well. If you find yourself getting really overwhelmed or feeling under a lot of pressure at the moment, you might take a little bit longer to do things that you might usually fly through. So instead of getting frustrated or criticizing yourself about this, try to understand that you are doing the best that you can in these circumstances. So this is a pressured time at work, and there's probably going to be a lot more demands right across the health service. So it's really important that you're not afraid to ask other people for help if you feel a bit overwhelmed. That can be your colleagues or maybe a manager in work. Try to make the time to slow down and give yourself a rest, and remember to take a break, even if it's only a couple of minutes for a cup of tea. The research shows us that actually taking a break instead of powering through can increase our productivity and the quality of our work as well. And remember to pace yourself between low and high intensity tasks. And if you can, think about this in advance when you're making a task list or creating rotas. That can be really helpful. So you might be asked to work somewhere completely new or in a part of the service that you haven't been working in for quite some time. So in those situations, it's really important to remind yourself about the transferable skills and the knowledge that you have that will be really useful in this new environment. So, psychologists will always recommend talking to others as one of your ways of coping with things. So, one way you can do this is by having a buddy system in your team or group of staff that you work in. And that means that one person can remember to check in on you and you can check in with them as well. Another thing you can do is begin to incorporate a team well-being check-in after you've had meetings or handovers. When the logistics have been discussed, just 5 to 10 minutes checking in and seeing how everyone is doing. Some of the things you could think about are things that went really well, and then other things that you want to make changes on going forward. One of the biggest problems that we have as human beings is our imaginations can get hijacked by worries about the future, what's going to happen. And this is likely to be happening way more than usual at the moment. And short mindfulness exercises can actually help us to engage more in things that we really want to be doing in the moment, which is nearly impossible to do when we're thinking about the future and having worries about that. It's actually a skill to develop a focus on things in the here and now, and much like you might go to school or to college to learn how to do your job and develop that skill, it requires training. So when we firstly understand why it is hard for us to focus on tasks at the moment, we can then engage with the causes of that difficulty, like worrying about the future, and manage it in a caring, compassionate, and very efficient way through mindfulness. So, with that in mind, I'm going to provide you with a few different mindfulness exercises so that you can have a practice and see how you get on. when you're doing these mindfulness exercises, it's useful to see how you are and how you're feeling at the end of them compared to when you started them. They're all just a few minutes long, and we'll just be doing one today to start us off. Firstly, working with your attention, involving some body scanning. So for this, you can make sure that you're sitting comfortably with your back as straight as is comfortable for you. And you can either close your eyes or look towards the floor if that's more comfortable for you. So firstly, start to focus on your right foot. Start by exploring the sensations in your toes, then moving on to your heel. And then think about your whole foot, holding your attention here for about 10 seconds. And then moving your attention to your left foot, starting again with the sensations in your toes, then moving to your heel, and then thinking about your whole foot, holding your attention here for about 10 seconds. Now move your attention onto your right hand. Start to notice the sensations in your fingers, and then move on to your thumb, and then hold that attention for about 10 seconds. Next, move your focus onto your left hand, doing the same thing here, moving from your fingers onto your thumb and holding your attention here for about 10 seconds. And finally, move your attention to your lips and the sensations around your mouth, holding your attention here again for about 10 seconds. And then when you're ready, you can just bring yourself back into the moment. And some of the things you can think about here is, what did you notice? Think about how when you were focusing on your left foot, you weren't thinking about your fingers or your lips. And then when you refocus your attention on your fingers, the awareness of your feet disappears. What you focus your attention on in your body expands your field of awareness. So it's like your attention is a zoom lens or a magnifying glass, a big spotlight illuminating things, but then it leaves other things in the dark. And then remember that you can move it around, it's not fixed, and you can actually move it deliberately. And when you do that, different sensations can flow in and out of your consciousness. So this is just to start us today, and we might think about how we can do that in terms of our emotions and feelings going forward. Thank you for listening to this presentation on compassion today, and remember to take care of yourself. If you have any questions or queries, feel free to contact me on the email below.